here with the co-founders of Swandive Theatre, who are currently directing An Outopia for Pigeons that's playing at the People Center. Go see the show. As you guys know, I've had a chance to really sit down and speak to each of the designers that has worked on this show. And what I found to be very consistent was their love of working with Swandive. Not just on this show, but like in other shows that you've worked with. So that got me thinking, how do you two go about deciding the designers that you want to use for a particular show?
Well, we have sort of a design team right now that we use, which I think Sean is really the only kind of new one to the team.
Kind of new.
He did work with us on Crumble, Lay Me Down, Justin Timberlake, but he got another show at the time, which was a Broadway show, so he went and did that. And so he did a little bit of Crumble, and then somebody else took over for him. His sister actually took over for him. So we didn't get as much of a chance to really work with him, or the other designers didn't get as much of a chance. But the other designers have all been working together for the past four years.
3.
3 years on our shows. So they, it's really nice because they sort of have like a language of their own. Like they know what to expect from the other person, and they know, like kind of what they're gonna get. I mean, it's really nice to see, like they're really able to work as a unit now, which is really great.
And it's surprising because we only get one chance each year really to work together, because we only produce one large show every single year. So.
Right. So, yeah.
So interestingly, they talked a lot about the atmosphere that the two of you can create in terms of collaboration. And they talked of how unique that was, and that it's not common that happens in other theaters. So I'm wondering, is that a deliberate kind of atmosphere or environment that you guys are trying to create for them, and how do you go about doing that?
Time.
Yeah.
Really? Coming back to the one show thing, it's really tough, I think, to create an atmosphere where you can be your best and you can experiment and try things and make some mistakes if you have to get something done in 3 weeks. And we start our shows months in advance. The conversations and the scripts go out months in advance, and we start talking to the designers months in advance.
In this case, years.
Years in advance. Outopia has been in the hands of these people for like over 2 years. So, but then it's just it's a trust thing. It's trusting them to come to the table with something with something awesome. It's also clarity and being clear about what resources we have to work with. We did this show on a pretty limited budget, and still we were able to make something pretty amazing come out of it.
And to that point, I recently read an article about how you're being recognized for the environmental friendliness of the set, and using reclaimed pallets and things of that nature. Again, talk a little bit about like the decision-making process around that. Was it strictly a budgetary decision, or was it a kind of a deliberate attempt at doing something good for the environment?
I think it sort of started initially as solely a budgetary, but then Sean McArdle, who was our props and space designer, and Damon when we started kind of talking about the budget, they had just attended the
Sustainability in Theater Conference about a year and a half ago.
They had just they were the ideas of sustainable theater and using sustainable practices within the theater were very fresh in their brains. And so it was kind of a happy accident that it worked out like that.
And the show lends itself to it. Like
we're
very fortunate in that it's a show about a bunch of stuff put together in a room. It's not a Victorian, box set. It's not a show that takes place underneath in the bottom of a submarine or something.
Right.
Like it's pretty. It could be pretty haphazard in how we came to it. So those 3 things, kind of budget, the fact that we had just really kind of latched onto this idea. Sean had done some work on a show, Peter and the Starcatcher, out on Broadway, that had done a lot of similar things, found objects, turned into something else, and then the Justin script really lending itself. I think it was. It's kind of a bit of a happy accident, but there's a lot to glean from how we approached it, and I think we can certainly use those ideas on our next show.
Well, the one thing that struck me as I thought about all the items that are in the set that I had the opportunity to see ahead of time was how it ties into your sense of wanting to get the community involved in theater, like with your Veggie Stock series, and really trying to include community members in any way that they can. So be able to say to people, hey, bring us your stuff, and let us, you know, I jokingly say to people like, I have a 12-gallon crock. It's in a show right now. It's famous. So I mean, like,
down left.
I think in a lot of ways there's some really nice synergies to just what Swandive stands for. So
yeah.
I have a question for you, Meg, as the artistic director. How is it that you approach finding a script that speaks to you?
I get asked this question a lot. You know, it's really hard. I read a lot of scripts. I mean, I'm sure not as many as some people out there, but I do read a lot of scripts. And I used to, years ago, I used to only read like the first 15 pages, and if it didn't sort of draw me into the first 15 pages, then I would put it down. But I had a playwright yell at me for doing that, so I stopped doing that. And now I read
the whole script, woman.
I do. I read the whole script. But you know, a lot of times it's just it's a gut instinct thing, I think. There are certain things that I look for. Like I'm a sucker for a really good story. Like I love a really good story, and if it's told in a really different way, then I'm sort of a sucker for that too. And I really, in most of the scripts that we do, I look for an element of magic or surrealism, if you prefer that term, but something just a little off, something just a little, you know. And then, and I also, I look for scripts that are going to challenge our design team too. That's a big one, because you know, it's important, you know, to find there are certain scripts that are going to challenge certain designers more than other designers. You know, I think that Crumble, Lay Me Down, Justin Timberlake was a real challenge for Ursula, who's our Ursula Bowden, who's our set designer. And she did an amazing job with it. It was maybe a little bit easier for the lighting designer, who was Jen DeGolia at the time. Was maybe a little bit easier for Kevin Springer, who's our sound designer. Our next show that we're doing, which is 5 Flights by Adam Bach, that'll be next year. That's going to be a real light and sound challenging show, which I kind of like, and I kind of like to kind of mix it up a little bit, you know, like for the designers. So I look for that too. I've gotten pretty good at sort of imagining the possibilities of a script. I used to have a really hard time, like there was one script that I read, I think it's by Steve Martin, where it's just a floating head the entire time. And I remember I read it years ago, and I had to put it down. Even though it's a pretty good script, I was like, I cannot wrap my brain around how you would stage this. So we're never going to do this, you know, like. But over the years, I've gotten really good at sort of being like, that's not my job. I don't have to figure that out. They do. So
here you go.
So
how do we make a non-plays?
Exactly. I don't know. Here you go, you guys, and run with it. And you know, God bless them. You know, this is why I'm not a sound, lighting, set, costume designer, prop designer, because you know, they're far better at it than I am. But now it's good because I've gotten really good at sort of imagining the possibilities and what they're capable of. So. And
then you have to probably admit that Veggie Stock has started to play into
Veggie Stock
some
is
choices,
a huge part of it,
because we've started, now that we've done it for a couple of years in a row, we're starting to see, like 4 years in a row. We're starting to see the audiences that continually come reacting to what they like the most. And while I don't think Swandive's going to ever really get in the game of, you know, just picking things that audience likes, it has an impact. I mean, we've read shows that we thought we were certain we would probably do them at some point, only to be like, I don't know now that we've heard it in front of an audience, and now that it's up on its feet a little bit, I'm not sure that we're going to do that show.
Yeah, that has become a big one for me. It's really nice to get people's reaction
early.
Yeah, and for me it's really nice to hear it out loud too, because that makes a big difference. Because in my head, it always sounds differently than when other people have a chance to interpret it. And then having the audience's reaction on top of that it's super important. Like Damon said, it doesn't necessarily mean that if I'm in love with a show and an audience that just hates it, that I'm not going to do it anyway. Because, but it's nice to get that reaction though.
So talk about this show a little bit, because I know you read it at Veggie Stock, but it was a commissioned work, which I would think would be a very different approach to how you're finding material to produce. So can you talk a little bit about that?
We've never commissioned a work before.
Yeah, we haven't. We worked on a show called The Play My Mother Hates about 5 or 6 years ago, but that was a mostly finished script that we took into a workshop process to help flesh the end out and then put it up in a Brian Lake Bowl. This show was literally the result of our first Veggie Stock, where we presented Exhausted Paint, The Death of Van Gogh, which Justin wrote, and it was a one-man show with Sean Patrick Boyd in it. And we just really liked the show. Like, we liked the language, and so we went to Justin and said, will you write a piece for us? Here's a little bit about our company. Here's what you can expect. Will you make it technically challenging? Biting off a little more than we can chew with that one. Didn't realize Justin was going to go so big, but it worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we just left him to his devices.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think I don't know. In some ways I don't know how other groups commission. Sometimes I think groups go to a playwright with an idea and say, I want you to write this idea, and then they go back and forth. And we said, we want you to just write something for us, and then we'll give you feedback. And in all honesty, version 1 to what's now version 6.03 is not radically different. Like, it's pretty similar. Same 4 characters, same basic premise, pretty much the same content. Lots of small tweaks, lots of different stuff, but
lots of fleshing out.
Of characters, lots of refining and cleaning, and that's kind of what the role Meg and I fell into. I think was we became the lens for our own audience. How were they going to see this? And Justin, I think, certainly gave us a script from the get-go that was even more absurd than it is now, and much more disjointed. And because we're both pretty big on story, it went a little further in that direction, but stayed pretty true to what his original intent was.
Now, am I correct in thinking that Justin was here this past weekend to see the show?
He was here for opening.
Yeah.
Any peek into his reaction?
Oh, he loved it. I think
he absolutely loved it.
He did. I mean, it's gratifying to know too that, because I mean, he's been as much a part of this project, as everybody else. Even though he's been in New Orleans, teaching. Because I mean, we worked so closely with him from the very beginning. I mean, I remember meeting with him, and he's showed us the first draft of the script, or it wasn't the first draft, it was, a couple drafts, but he handed it to us and he was like, I never show people a script this early, so he was, it was hard for him too.
Yeah.
It was a different process, I think, for everybody. So he's been as much a part of this as anybody else, and so
he loved it.
It was really gratifying to see that he was happy with
very
the production.
Happy. Yeah, he was very happy with everything. The performances were he said were in ways that he had never really thought about them. I asked him what his biggest surprise, kind of unexpected thing was, and he said it was Cotton Mather's physicality. He had never imagined the character going in that direction, and he absolutely loved that. And asked him what his biggest moment he was looking forward to that he knew was coming, and it was Martha's monologue. He knew that was going to be great, but he just really loved it. But he's been commenting on the set and the lights and everything, costumes. He's been very connected, but he was incredibly blissful. So.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do a little lightning round.
Oh.
Whoop.
Okay.
Lightning round.
Yep. Meg.
Yes.
What's your favorite sound?
Oh, sound. Oh, that's so hard. I don't know.
Lightning strikes slowly.
Lightning does strike very slowly.
These days.
Especially here. Well, know, like when somebody asks you that question, you're immediately like, I'm deaf. I've never heard anything before. I don't know. I suppose. I don't know.
Okay, Damon, what sound do you hate?
What sound do you hate?
What sound do I hate? I don't really hate a lot of sounds. we are really.
It's a horrible
really,
lightning round.
This is a horrible lightning round. What sound do I hate? I do not like. I do not like the whine of a belt in a old car.
Okay.
I can't stand that noise.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Meg, favorite curse word?
Fuck.
Damon, say question.
Most used, fuck. Favorite curse word? Probably bullshit.
Okay. If you could have a profession other than what you're doing, what would it be?
I don't know. For a long time, it was actor. I would have just been an actor and nothing else. But I actually really enjoy being an artistic director and director. But if I had to go like a completely different direction, maybe book editor. Right? I know.
Damon, same question.
This is how I got my job at the Southern. This one's easy. I would be a professional skateboarder, guaranteed.
I was thinking DJ, so there you go. I don't know you at all.
Professional skateboarder. Oh, that's because I'm not going to be. I can dabble in DJing. You don't really dabble in professional skateboarding without breaking an ankle or something. So.
I live really close to a professional skateboarder.
Oh, really?
Nice. We'll come hang out.
There you go. All right, last question.
Yeah.
If, by some chance, there is a heaven, what would you like St. Peter to say to you with the pearly gates?
Come on in, there's beer and pizza in the back, and you're no longer allergic to gluten.
Sweet. All right, Damon, same question.
Who's St. Peter?
You have to do the guards and pearly gates.
Gotcha. Okay. Jokes on us.
Perfect. Alright, sorry guys, I wish you the best of luck with the rest of the show.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for
I'm
coming
forward
out.
to seeing it myself.
Yay!
Thanks.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.